Hello. Happy Wednesday. My God, what a crazy last couple days it's been. I just went to the gas station and got a fountain pop. And I meant to look this movie up. Because I wanted to say something about it. When I was in the gas station tonight, there was this woman in there, and I saw her from the back, and she was like really skinny. Like her hair was like it was like this blondish, a total mess, but it was like dreaded out. And she had on these big clunky gym shoes, and she was real hunched over and real skinny. And like from the back, there was like all this gray in her hair. I would have guessed her to be like 65 or 70. But then when she like got right in my face, she looked like she was like my age. It was very, very sad. And she was like talking to herself, and she didn't like look homeless to me, but there was obviously something very, very off about her. And so I know the girl that works there late at night, because of course, I mean, why wouldn't I? And I was talking to her, and I was like, is she okay? And she's like, she comes in here every night. And she was like, she keeps on coming up and ringing things up, and then she'll ask me in like a half an hour. Excuse me. She said she goes over there there's like a little seating area where you can sit down and eat. And she was like, she'll go over there and she'll eat her stuff, and then she'll come over here in like a half an hour and ask me if there's anything that I can give her for free. And it was so sad. Like, I don't know, there was just something about it that like, I remember when I was a little kid, I saw this movie called Stone Pillow with Lucille Ball. And I loved this movie. I don't know what it was about the movie, and I ended up, a couple years ago, I bought it on eBay, the DVD of it, and so I have the DVD version of this movie. It's fantastic. It was a made-for-TV movie about this girl that was a social worker, and she wanted to work with, like, the homeless, so her boss sent her out to, like, live with the homeless, and she had to act like she was homeless for a couple days, and she tags along with Lucille Ball, who was, like, very, like, hard in the movie, and very, like, if anybody's seen the movie, you'll know what I'm talking about. But you could tell, in the movie, she also had mental health issues, and, you know, now, 22 years later, from having worked in the field for so long, I know that, you know, our homeless population there's so many of us, there's so many people out there that are homeless that have mental health issues. And that, in fact, that has a lot to do with why they end up on the streets homeless. And so getting them involved in, like, wraparound services and things like that is really, really important. And I looked at this woman tonight. This was the movie that I was looking up a couple years ago, because I looked in her face and I thought, you're so young, you know, like, what happened to you? She had no car. There was no car around. I mean, I said to the woman that worked there, I said, is she homeless? And she said, yeah. She goes, I don't know where she walks from, but, because this gas station's kind of like, it's not near any place where you would, like, live. Like, I live, like, way down the street in, like, a housing addition, and there's just not, like, there's no places, like, right there where she could live right next door, you know? And she's like, I don't know where she walks from, and she comes in here, like, 3 nights a week, and, you know, it reminded me of, there are moments in your life, if you lost a parent young, that you realize that you're rather happy that they passed away young. Like, and some of them are joking, and some of them are not. Like, I used to always joke, like, actually, Caroline, my cousin, brought this up on Thanksgiving. We were talking about, like, Facebook. Like, my mother would not have understood Facebook, but you couldn't tell her that she couldn't have one. Like, she would have wanted me to sit down there and teach that to her every day. Like, you know that advertisement with that woman that, like, doesn't understand the wall? Like, that would have been my mom. Like, if any kind of word like that I would have used, like your page or your wall, like, she would not have understood it, okay? Here was a woman that had 2 master's degrees, stories, and, you know, like, understood James Joyce's Ulysses unlike nobody's business when other people could never even get through the book. Yet she failed a class at the library on email 3 times. And she would proudly tell people, she'd say, she's like, I just don't understand technology. I failed email. And people would be like, what do you mean you failed email? And she'd be like, well, there's a free class that you can take. She took all these free classes at the library. My mother, like, anything that was offered free by the city of Indianapolis, my mother took them up on it. And so they offered these free technology classes at the library, and she came home to me one day, and this was the second time taking it, and she said something to me about, I was like looking for a piece of paper, and she goes, it's over there in that drawer with my email. And I go, your email? And she goes, yeah, it's over there in that drawer with my email. And so I didn't know what she was talking about. Oh, Mom, I missed you so much sometimes. And I opened the drawer, and like right next to this like pad of paper that she kept in there was like this disc, right? Like we don't even have discs like that anymore. This disc that you put into a computer. And I was like, this disc? And she was like, yeah, my email's on there. And I go, no, Mom, like your email's like, I was trying to explain it to her, and I said, you know, email, like the World Wide Web is like this world, right? And then like you have an address on there, and then like people can send things to you, and you can send things to them. Oh, no. Now, my professor, her professor, who was probably just some dude that taught how to do email at the library, a bunch of old people, you know, my professor told me that my email was on there. So I'm going to need you to put that email onto my computer. I'd be like, Mother. She's like, now, can you please just pull up my email? I need you to pull up my email from that. My email's on that disc. She did not understand. So that particular day ended up in a lot of mothers. And so she ended up going and taking an email a 3rd time. And then the professor asked her just not to come back. He said, I don't think that you're going to ever get this. Please just don't come back. She goes, can you believe that he talked to me that way? She was like, I think that I deserve to have email just like everybody else. She was so funny. But anyway, I think there are just some people that like don't work in society. You know what I mean? Like, and it's not any fault of their own. And I remember there was this guy that I met through like the rooms, like the 12-step rooms of sobriety. And he was just so out there and so different, and I like really attract those people that can't find affection and compassion anywhere else. And so he would just like always want to be talking to me and telling me like all of these out there stories, right, about his life. And I almost kind of sometimes wondered if he wasn't like pushing my boundaries to see like really, okay, how okay with things is Peter. And he never pushed me away. And I wish I could say his nickname, because it would totally put in perspective. Not the nickname, we never gave him a nickname. It was his nickname he had for himself, and he would say it in meetings. He'd say like, okay, I'm just like, if I said it, I'd say my name is Peter and he would say this, and it just was like hilarious. But like one day he just disappeared and nobody knew where he was anymore. But before that, I can remember saying to Tanya and I were talking about it, and I said, you know, some people have such an issue with the fact that he comes and that they think he's disruptive to meetings and things. And Tanya said to me, she goes, if I've learned anything in, you know, my 21 years of sobriety, she said, I've learned that there are some people that are only accepted and find acceptance in the rooms of a 12-step program. And, you know, I think that's kind of a cool thing, honestly, about recovery and sobriety, is that, you know, nobody will be turned away, period. Nobody will be turned away. And I think that's part of what my mother loved so much about it, you know, was you couldn't kick her out. You couldn't tell her to take her email home and, you know, never come back. I mean, you couldn't kick her out. Whether you liked her or not, she was there to stay. And I so much relate to that, you know? Like, I was one of those people that people didn't want around a lot when I was growing up as a kid. I made people uncomfortable, you know, because they didn't know what to do with me, especially boys. It's like, you know, I didn't get invited to the birthday parties after a certain age because boys, they'd be like, I'm sure they had conversations with their mom, oh, he's weird, I don't want him here, you know? And then, of course, I didn't belong at any kind of girl's birthday party unless our parents were friends. So, you know, from a very young age, we're talking, this is like the late 70s, early 80s, I didn't fit in anywhere, you know, as this gay kid that didn't know he was gay. And so I didn't get invited anywhere. I mean, anywhere. And I had one really close friend growing up from about 6th grade on. And that was it, you know, that was really, well, I had 2 girls that I was friends with, and one of them, it's so funny because she's sober too, and I see her a lot, and we were like really good friends, like 4th grade going into 5th grade, she and I and another girl. And then after, like, we got to, like, no, it would have been 5th grade going into 6th grade. And then, like, after our first semester of 6th grade, it was done. Like, we all found other friends because 6th grade, like, was where all the elementary schools combined. And so everybody kind of went their own separate ways. But that first year, I mean, we were inseparable. And I think we, like, kissed and dated for, like, 2 weeks or something. Every chance she gets to tell people when she sees me at a meeting, she's like, I was Peter's first girlfriend. I'm like, you're Peter's only girlfriend besides my high school girlfriend. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, like, that was it as far as friends. And then when I was in high school, you know, I had a little clique of 4 or 5 girls, and we were all of us tough as fucking nails. And, that was it. You know, we were punk rock, we were hardcore, you didn't mess with us, and I was kind of like the protective child, so to speak. But anyway, I was thinking about this movie tonight. Damn it, I just looked it up. It's that Woody Allen movie with Cate Blanchett. I think it's called like Blue Iris or something like that. I literally just looked it up, and I'm not going to pick up my phone or I would look at it. But, and it's at the very end where she's like, do you guys know the movie I'm talking about? So her husband divorces her, and she's like nowhere to go, so she goes and lives with her sister in San Francisco. And at the very end, like, she and her sister have like a falling out, and she's sitting on like a park bench, and she's like really nobody else to talk to anymore, and she kind of lives in her own reality. And she's sitting there, and she's talking to this woman. I think she starts talking to this woman next to her, and the woman gets up and leaves. And so she starts talking to herself. And I remember seeing that movie. It was so fantastically done with Cate Blanchett. I think she won an Oscar for it. She was so fantastic in that movie. And I know all of the allegations and all of the shit about Woody Allen, and I don't condone Woody Allen's behavior, but I do love some of his movies. So anyway, but I remember watching that movie, and I thought to myself, that could have been my mom, you know, like, there were moments that my mother's mental health was so unchecked and out of, you know, it's just gone, that, like, she just wasn't okay, and finances were not great for my mom, you know, she could not keep shit intact, she just couldn't. I mean, when the stress hit, and the deep depression hit, and she just couldn't get out of bed, I mean, honest to God, the finances were the first things to go. And, you know, when my mom passed away, I thought that I would... I mean, my mother had lived so frugally most of her life. I thought that, you know, I knew that she had gotten this very nice divorce settlement and all this kind of stuff, you know. I thought, well, shit, when she passes, I mean, like, I can remember sitting in the hospital being like, well, I can pay off the house, and, you know, and then there'll be some extra money to put into savings, and while I can transfer a living, because I had to figure out, I still had a year in my lease, and I was paying, so when my mom passed away, I was paying 2 mortgages, and I was paying rent and a mortgage, and, but I didn't have any idea at that time my aunt was taking care of stuff that her mortgage was so low. It was $115 or $150. But when my mom passed away, she was in debt, and I incurred that debt, you know, and I think she was 64 and a half, and I think she'd just gotten her first Social Security check, and, you know, she had one annuity. She would always talk about cashing in these annuities, these like these, you know, mutual funds, and she had one left that she hadn't cashed in, and when she passed away, I cashed that annuity check, which, okay, so it was like $18,000, so when I cashed it in, I can't remember how much I got after taxes, it wasn't a lot, but like her funeral was like almost $12,000, and I think there was like 1,000 left or something. And I, at that point, was already paying bills on 2 places. And I can remember thinking to myself, you know, am I the only person in the world that goes into debt from having somebody pass away? You know, like, she just didn't take care of it. She had term life insurance that she, you know, let go out, and she just didn't take care of herself financially. And, you know, I think it's scary to me when I see that with other families. And, you know, she had no will in place. That released me from any kind of responsibility. She had, you know, which the way that works a lot of times is that it's such a long story if I go into it. Okay, so when my mom was sick, my aunt had my mom, like, she concocted this. It doesn't even matter anymore. I don't know why I'm like sitting here. I just shared this not too long ago in here. I don't even care. My aunt concocted this letter with the attorney, basically making me have power of attorney over my mother, and so that I can make all decisions, because my mother didn't have any advance directive, and that's a decision where, like, if you go into a coma, they like take you off for so many days or whatever, and you know, and so there was nobody really to make that decision. And so this power of attorney, which my aunt concocted with the attorney, allowed me to make all those decisions, which my mother would have given me anyway, but she wasn't in the ability to do that. They had it all put together like the day that my mom went into a coma. It was very smart on my aunt's part, because the whole thing would have ended up in a mess. My mother would have ended up in a state-run, long-term care facility and would have just died there probably with no... It's just so sad when I think about what happens to a lot of people, but... But what she did in making me the power of attorney, instead of having basically like a will or whatever, is that then I became like the chief executor over her estate, over her, everything to do with her. And therefore, any debt that was occurred in her name became my debt. It's very different than if like you just are next of kin, or it's very different than all of that. And the reason that it had to be like that was because we didn't know how long my mom was going to be in a coma. So I had to be able to sign her checks. And in fact, I ended up having to start a checking account, which had like her name and my name underneath it. And I was like the trustee on the account. So when she passed away, she was very much, she had the one annuity, but then she was very much into debt. And so yeah, that's kind of the story on all of that. So make sure, you know, if you have kids or if you're single and you just have 1 or 2 family members, the things that I would suggest, that people always ask me, you know, when you say take care of your business, what do you mean by that? Well, number one, you need to have an advance directive. And what that means is if you end up in the hospital, basically brain dead, what do you want to happen to you? And I told my dad, like when I went through that, I said, don't you ever do this to me again. Don't you leave me with the decision that I have to decide what's best for my parent. Don't do that to me. It's too much emotionally. And so my dad had that put, as a doctor, he should have had it already, but he didn't. So he put that into place right away. He already had a will and all that kind of stuff, because it's not even so much about the money, it's about what do you want to happen. I mean, like, that's my thing. Like, you know, I don't need any of that today, but it's like, what do you want to happen? What do you want your best wishes to be? I've seen so many people fight over that shit, you know, and it just is silly to me. They're gone. It's just money. It doesn't mean anything. Just let somebody else have it. You know what I mean? But, so yeah, it's very sad how all that stuff goes down, but I was thinking about that movie when I saw that woman, because I was like, this is one of those moments when you're thankful that your mother didn't live to be 75, because I think to myself, well, what if something had happened to me? I'm telling you right now, my mother, I know a lot of people. My friend, Lori, that I've talked about, both of her sons died within a year of each other. I know a lot of people that have lost children and somehow continue to survive and are strong. I do not know how they do it, but I'm telling you right now, my mother was not that person. She would not have survived it. If I had died before her, she would not have survived it. She wouldn't have. She would have gone crazy. I know that. I literally was my mother's everything as an only child, and as she just didn't have a whole lot to do in her life, you know, and as she got older, that's where I kind of thought she had all this money stored away that she was living off of. I didn't realize, I always thought she was frugal just because she was frugal. I didn't realize she was frugal out of necessity, you know, and She got her first Social Security check the month that she passed away, because you can get it 6 months before. And a little unknown fact for you, my mother died on the 14th of May. This kills me. This kills me. You know, that John Cookian, who I've done all those videos about on the other channel, said I was living off the state. I was like, when I saw that, he put that out there, I was like, where do you come up with this stuff? If I did, I wouldn't even be embarrassed of it, you know? But, let me tell you how great the state works in the United States, John. So my mother, you know, passed away on May 14th. Well, does anybody know what I'm about to say about the rule with Social Security checks? So if you pass away before the 15th of the month, you have to reimburse everything that was sent to you in the check. So, we got the check on like the 1st, and I had already spent it on bills, okay? Like electricity, like gas, like everything to do with her house. I had already spent it on that, right? I mean, it wasn't like she was getting a lot anyway. I think she was some, you know, pittance of amount of money that you guys get on Social Security. And so, which won't even probably exist when I'm retiring, so who cares anyway, right? But I spent it all on that, and then to turn around and on the heels of having to pay for an expensive funeral, having just lost my mother, I get a call from Social Security telling me that I have to reimburse them for the check because my mother died before the 15th of the month. Not only that, but the day that my mom was being taken off of life support, I got called down by the hospital's financial person, and she had me in a room, and she said, so your mother's bill, she said, this is what she said to me today. She goes, or she said to me that day, she goes, I hear that, this very much to me tonight is very much like how I would just be talking with my friends if we were out to dinner. It feels, I just had that thought. I was like sitting there talking to Caroline at dinner or something, but she goes, I'll never forget this woman. I will never forget her. And I understand that it's her job, okay? But you know, you need to like advocate for different rules at your job then. So we hear that your mom is leaving today. My mom is leaving today. My mom is being taken off life support. Yes, she's leaving this planet today. She's leaving her life today. We hear that your mom is... There's only one person in the room. We hear that your mom is leaving today. I wanted to punch her in the face. I was so pissed. And we're going to have to settle this bill. I looked at her, I go, excuse me? I was so done at that point. I was so fucking done. I had spent every day for the last 2 months in ICU watching my mother whittle away. And here is this woman telling me that I have to settle this bill. And I know I am all about positivity, and trust me, okay? But that day wasn't the day, okay? Yeah, so, your bill, your mother's bill has come to $298,000. So we're going to want to know what kind of payment plan you're going to have to set up for that. I said, excuse me? I think I said excuse me like 6 times in there. Yeah, so we hear that your mom is leaving today. I mean, who teaches them to talk this way to us, you know? And her bill is $298,000. So we're wondering what kind of payment plan you'd like to set up for that. And she's like typing on her computer, right? I stood up and I literally, like, they had this little like plastic chair, you know? I like threw that chair against the desk. I said, you are the most vile human being I've ever met. I said, fuck you and your $298,000. And I walked out of there. And what was so funny is that my mother, who at the time, because she didn't believe in private insurance, she believes in socialized medicine. My mother was a hippie, come on. My aunt had gotten her somehow on the Hoosier insurance plan, which is very much like Medicaid. It really is, or Medicare. But it's kind of like before you're old enough to get Medicare, it's like, I don't even know if it exists anymore, actually. It was this thing they set up in the government for people that like weren't like poor enough to get Medicaid or didn't need assistance, but they weren't old enough to get Medicare and they weren't disabled. And so I don't know how you got on there, but I remember my aunt got it all taken care of for my mom to get on there. So literally, this is so strange. About a month after that, no, it was like a month after that, I got this notice, and it was called like Amvid or something like that. This company that was in charge of You guys know what I'm talking about, right? Like the co-signer of the insurance company. I got like this letter from them that was in charge of the Hoosier insurance plan. And it said, your bill at such and such hospital was paid in full for the amount of, and it was like 297,000, blah, 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 whatever. Your remaining balance to use for the year of 2014 is, and it was like $2,086. And I was like, oh my God, they paid this bill completely in full. She got a $300,000 cap per year that she could use, and they paid it. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. I mean, that's where I have to believe that there is some kind of like God at work that is also laughing at me all the time, right? I mean, come on, you know? And then my mother had credit cards that were maxed out. That they came for me too. And I had the stupidest attorney in the entire world. And he was drafting all these letters up and telling them, he's like, you're gonna have to pay him something, you're gonna have to pay him something. They were all for, like, this is what was so interesting, was that they were all for the sum of like $5,000, and she had like 4 of them. I did not have the money to pay him. I literally didn't, and they would call me every day. Every day they would call me. And so I was sitting at work, and I shared an office next to this woman, and she was so fabulous, and she did like body waxing and stuff, and we were standing there talking one day, and I said, I just don't know what to do. And she said, tell him to fuck off. And I said, what? And she was like, listen, she was like, my auntie passed away, and she was like, they wanted us to pay all the credit card debt because I was the next of kin. And she goes, they called me so many times. She goes, finally they called me, and I said, listen, you call me again, I'm gonna change my number. You're harassing me. Go, you cannot sue a dead woman. You're not gonna get any money out of me. Well, I tried that with 2 of the 3 credit card companies, or I tried that with all 3 credit card companies. 2 of the 3 never called me again, and I don't know what happened to that debt, but it's not mine anymore. The 3rd one I worked out a payment plan with, and they were very, very generous and very, very nice. You know, it's like, I don't know, it's just like, where have we lost sense of ourselves in times of grief to people? And, you know, that's why, like, whenever I have to call, like, the cable company or the phone company or anything, I always try to be very, very nice to those people, because those customer service reps, it's not their fault. You know, if you guys work in customer service, you know, it's not your fault. You know, it's like my dad always said to me, don't shoot the waiter if you can't stand the food. You know, it's like, don't yell at the person. It's not their fault. You know what I mean? But, like, we should have better policies set up for that, or at least a waiting period or whatever. You know, like, I don't think the day that I am going through taking my mother off life support is the day to be asking me how I'd like to set up a payment plan. You know, had she asked me that like 2 weeks later, I probably would have had a completely different response to her. I'm thankful that it was paid for and that they were reimbursed, but, you know, like, in full, okay? Now, if you live in the United States, I don't know now about outside of the United States, but that's crazy town that any insurance company paid a bill in full, okay? Let's just be for real. So, anyway, especially a bill like that. God, I'm almost done. I'm almost at 30 minutes. Here, I'm going to stop this just for a second. But, you know, I don't know. Like, if she called me 2 weeks later, I probably would have said, yeah, I'll come in there and we can sit down and talk about a payment plan. How I would have ever paid a payment plan of $300,000, I would have had no idea. But this is why you need to have health insurance if you don't, because this is how people go homeless every day in our country. Every day. You know, they force you to sell your house, or they garnish your wages. It's a skewed medical system that we have here in the United States. It's really sick, you know, and, you know, I feel very blessed that my husband and I can afford privatized health care, but what if I couldn't, you know? And there were periods in my life that I couldn't. When I worked, I was lucky enough to get it through my job, but after I left, that was really hard. I mean, I was paying out of pocket, and I'm epileptic, remember, so I have to have health care. I was paying out of pocket like $830 a month in Cobra insurance. Cobra. So if you guys want to look that up, because I know a lot of people, whenever I talk about Cobra insurance, they're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, so it's COBRA, like the snake. And I had that for 18 months. It's basically where you pay the premium that your company was paying for you before. But I had to do it, you know. That I cannot. I look back on that and I was like, how did I have the money for that? I don't even know. I was taking out of savings, and I've never been real rich in life. You know, I've always just had enough. And Caroline and I always talk about that, like my cousin and I. It's like, we're both very blessed to have houses and take trips and all that stuff, but like, we've never had a ton, and it's like, that's okay. Like, I'm totally fine with that, you know? Like, I don't think I was ever supposed to be that person that had a lot. But I also, like, don't want to be the person that sleeps on a park bench. But, I don't know, I'm thankful sometimes that my mom isn't here, you know? Like, what would have become of her if I wasn't around to take care of her? It makes me really, really sad, you know? I think that what happens to a lot of people that don't have people to take care of them, you know? It breaks my heart. Excuse me. It's sad. It's a sad reality, you know? We used to have a mental health institution here in Indianapolis called Central Park. No, that's not true. Central State. And they shut it down. They condemned it and shut it down. And they didn't place, like, they placed like 20% of the people in group homes. The rest of them, they just let go. All of these people with mental health issues walking around the cities of Indianapolis becoming our homeless, and we don't take care of them. We don't feed them. We don't shelter them. We don't bathe them. And what becomes of those people, you know? It's so sad to me. Anyway, so I didn't even tell you guys about my day. Oh well. Tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow, but I'm going to get off here now. So I love you guys. I've been talking for a half an hour. I will do a really long vlog tomorrow, I promise. Okay, good night.